I said earlier we're continuing our journey in Acts 6 with Richard. Just a chance now to pick Richard's brain again briefly. Richard, you've been talking to us about biblical patterns and principles for ministry as we see in Acts chapter 6. And this is something you've been giving yourself and your time to for a long time. Help us think through what was it about the kinds of things we've seen from God's word this week that caused you to invest in training in our church, Dundonald, but also across London in the Co-Mission network? Why did it take you in that direction?
Well, I think these principles of maximising gospel ministry to the glory of God are what we all want to be about. And I think for us here in London to try and multiply ministry both within Dundonald and then planting churches, and then as we planted more and more opportunities came from God, we wanted to take those opportunities. And so, I mean, our goal in Commission is to assist in evangelising London by planting and strengthening 60 Reformed Evangelical diverse churches. So, and all of it for salvation of many to the glory of God. So it's very ordinary in one sense. It's just what we're talking about, is to try and reach the lost in London. And in one sense, you always got to focus somewhere, so we're focused in London, but I want to encourage churches in every city and the country too, you know, organise networks that enable you to maximise gospel ministry. Because you, in one sense, it's playing team. The whole point of having a network is you play team again, because there are things you can do together as a network that you can't do on your own, including training. So across the country, there are regional training provisions. You know, you can have some training in your local church, but it's so helpful, isn't it, to be part of the Midlands training scheme, or the Northwest training scheme, or the Commission training scheme, or wherever it is. You can benefit from working together, and that's the whole team thing. So it's just the principles of Acts 6 rolled out in London, I think.
Yeah, and have you, as you've sort of, are there particular things that people have found helpful kind of moving from biblical passages which talk about these things, but actually trying to establish a team or get a vision for connecting? I don't know whether it's either the barriers that get in the way, or what are the things that have helped people make progress?
I mean, training has been central to everything. Training the next generation. You can't always win everybody else to good ideas, and in one sense I'm not wanting to try too hard to persuade other people to stop what they're doing. That's great. There's room for all kinds of... London's a big city, there's a big world, there's so much need. But I think to train those who have potential in your own church to look much harder, and one of the reasons why we set up 938 was to look much harder within our own congregations, to recognise you don't just import somebody from another church somewhere else, but look at the people in your own church, invest in them, and it's amazing to see what God has done in their lives. And so many of our early ministry trainees are now the senior pastors of churches across Commission, or assistant pastors, or others who are in support roles, operational roles, people we just couldn't manage without. And they've all come from the ministry training scheme. So in one sense, that's what I wanted to say from Acts 6. You know, there's so much need of the gospel of Jesus Christ here and abroad, as Rachel was saying. There's room for all of us to get involved. So whoever you are, maximise your gospel ministry, and you'll find there's plenty of opportunity. And for those who are leaders, I want to say invest, train, and organise networks. Build teams within churches, build teams amongst churches, and indeed work together nationally and internationally for the sake of making disciples. But I think training is key to that.
Yeah, thank you, Richard, and thank you for your care and attention to this work for many years, and we've been experiencing some of the fruits of that today.
It's God's work.
It's God's work,
God's done
absolutely,
it. God's
and
done
He
it.
uses people.